Hi, my name is Sherry Wheeler, and this video goes over a Git branching strategy for a common scenario that I've come across. You can follow me on Twitter at SyntaxSeed, and so an overview of what I'm doing here is a problem that I've encountered and some of my clients have encountered, where you have a base application and you need to customize it and then spawn off releases for individual clients. So this is pretty common with open source software. You take something like WordPress or OpenCart or DocuWiki or something like that. You take the latest version of that application, you clone the repo so you have a copy, then you start making a little bit of customizations to the source code to tweak some things to get it to where you want for your business's purposes. And then you take that customized version of whatever the software is, and you then make copies of that and customize it, change the themes, change the logos, etc. for each individual client that wants a copy of it. So you're taking this open source software, you're making your own slightly altered version, and then you're distributing it to multiple clients. And what happens is that you start with an original copy of the latest version of the project, and then because you have tweaked the source code a little bit or a lot, you get out of sync with the original version of the application. And so when they release updates or security fixes or bug fixes or new features, you are kind of stuck because you've customized the source code enough that if you upgrade to the latest version of the original application, it will wipe out all your changes and you're a little bit stuck with the original release that you started building off of. And now your version and the core application have started to diverge, and then you find yourself with time going on, your application becomes more and more out of date because the original application that you based it on is now several versions or several releases ahead of you, and you're still working with or distributing to your clients something that is based off of now an outdated version of the software. So one thing I wanted to look at is possible strategies to keep what you're doing in sync with what the original project is doing and to keep track of customized versions for each client who's using it. So what I have is a sample application. This is something I've just called Robot App, and I'm basing it off of robots because I have a whole bunch of test photos of robots, so I can use images of robots. So no particular reason, I just wanted to keep something really simple. There's nothing to this. It's a configuration file with an array of some config values. There's a class that represents the actual application. I inject the config into the constructor. I have a few quote-unquote features of this application represented by a few functions here in the app. I have an entry point and the index file. I'm requiring those two files, and then I'm instantiating the app, showing some of the output, and then I have another homepage feature that's also using the config file down here. Obviously, this is not using any best practices for auto-loading, or it's not using a framework. Don't judge this code. It's just for the purposes of showing modifications to the source code. So there's three files. There's an image file. And the result is I get this page here with a title, a summary about it, a picture of a robot, and then the line at the bottom of the index file that I created. So I have this in Git already. I have a repo set up. This is the master branch. I've done my initial commit to the repo. Nothing too fancy there. And all I have right now is a master branch. So what happens, so let's say this is version 2.0 of Robot App. And say Robot App is a very popular open source project that I now want to customize for my company or my, if say I'm a freelancer or whatever, I want to customize it for my purposes, and I'm going to make it a little bit different than the original version of Robot App based off of Robot App 2.0. So I'm going to make a customized version, and this is going to be my main version that I will then customize for my clients. So I'm going to make a new branch. Git branch. No, git checkout. I'm going to call this branch core customized. So you can see I now have master and I have core customized as the two branches in this repo. I've currently checked out core customized. Master and core customized are both identical at this point. So I want to, make some changes. Say I don't like the summary showing up. This is an example of, say you take something in a major open source project and you just want to disable or comment out some of the features. Not all of them have feature flags in their configuration like this, so you might actually have to go into the source code of the main application and comment out features you don't want and things like that. So let's say in my version I don't want config.php to say there. I just want my last initial to be that, and I want the summary to only say robots are awesome. Okay, so that's my version. Okay, robot app. I've now taken my WordPress or my OpenCart or whatever it is, and I've removed some stuff that I don't want in there. I've made some little changes, and this is now the version of the software that I want to distribute to my clients. So I'm going to check in my changes. Awesome. So there we have it. Now, what happens when, now I haven't even distributed this to any clients yet. What happens when a new version of Robot App comes out, is released by the maintainers of Robot App? I don't make it. Some maintainers work on Robot App. They release a new version. It's going to be a version 2.1. How do I handle that? Let's look into that problem. Okay, so let's simulate a update to the master branch, which would be an update to the third-party application that we're basing this on. I've already done some changes. I paused the recording and did some changes. I had switched over to master, and the few things that I changed was I added a new config file, the version bumps up, and I also added a copyright line at the bottom of the home page. So let's look at that. Here we go. Oh, we need a new line. Okay, so this is now version 2.1 of Robot App. It comes into my project because I fetched the new changes from the main repository for Robot App. So let's add these changes real quick. Okay, so I now have a new version of Robot App. Git log, git. I have an alias that gives me a really pretty version of the log file here. So what you can see is my original commits to master, and then I branched off with the core customized branch, but then master has diverged from core customized. So if I switch to core customized, git checkout, you will see that it does not have the copyright line. So my customized version of Robot App doesn't have this feature that the new release of Robot App added to the application. So Core Customized is now diverged from the original version of Robot App. What do? One solution is to rebase Core Customized onto Master. I'm not going to get into too many details about what rebasing is, and it's not the only solution here. In fact, a lot of people recommend not using rebasing. Some people really like it. One of the problems with rebasing is that it changes your Git history, and it's a destructive change. So if you make a rebasing change, you have to force push it up to a remote repository like GitHub, and anyone else who has checked out that repo, they now have to update with a destructive change to their repository. So rebasing is great if you're a solo developer working on a project. If you have one or two fellow developers who are working on the same repo, working on the same branches, you might still want to use rebasing. Make sure everyone has checked in their changes before you do any force pushing. But once you do a force push and you've rebased everything, anyone else using that is going to have to fetch those changes, and it's going to change their history as well. So be careful. Rebasing is just one possible solution. You might want to cherry pick the changes instead, or look into merging the branches together. This is just one example where I'm going to go over rebasing as a possible option. So I've already checked out Core Customized, and I want to rebase this onto Master. So what this is going to do is the commits that I have made to Core Customized are basically diffs that have recorded changes I made to the source code from Master to Core Customized. If I replay those diffs, if I replay those changes onto the latest version of Master, it's going to make my Core Customized changes all over again, but it's going to make my changes as if I was making them on the newer version of Master. This can cause some conflicts, so if you're comfortable resolving conflicts, well, even if you're not, you're going to get used to it pretty quickly. I rarely have a rebase or a merge work without a bunch of conflicts that I have to solve, but that's neither here nor there. We won't get into that. So I'm rebasing Core Customized onto Master. So it replays my changes onto Master. And now, instead of this branch where Core Customized is branching off of this one, instead, Core Customized is coming off of 2.0 of Master. So what does that mean? Let's look at our application. This is now the Core Customized branch, and it has the copyright feature. I'm in Core Customized, and I have the new config element that was added in 2.1. I have the new version number. I have the new copyright line, but I still have my changes that were particular to my Core Customized version. If you'll recall, I turned off the summary in Core Customized, and I changed the line here to just be my initial. And that was my customized version of Robot App. So right now you can see there's no summary. I've got the initial. So this is still my customized version of Robot App, but it also has the features and changes that were made to the original main version of Robot App. Great. So now I know what to do when Robot App releases new versions. I know what to do with my customized version. I just rebase my changes onto the new master. Master branch will always be identical to the release of Robot App that I have updated to. I'm never going to make my own personal changes on the master branch. I'm going to keep master identical to the latest release of Robot App. So let's say a client comes to me and they want their own version of Robot App with their own customizations particular to that client. Now what do we do? Let's look at that next. Okay, so client A comes to me. They don't want R2D2 as their picture for robot app, and they want me to launch a new instance of robot app for them with a different picture. What do I do? Well, first I'm going to create a branch specific to that client, and it's going to branch off of the core customized branch. So now the client has their own version or their own branch of robot app, and I'm going to make customizations specific to that client. So let's say they want Optimus Prime as their robot. Delete, rename. Awesome. So now we have Optimus Prime as the robot. And let's say this client wants the title to say Client A because they want their name all over everything. Great. So I've now customized this specific to the client. I make sure I check in my changes. Okay, so I now have master was released up to 2.1, core customized was rebased off of 2.1, and client A has a branch based off of core customized. I launch the project for client A, everybody's happy, I get paid, yay. So now what happens? We have this client A version of the site. What happens when all the way back down the line robot app releases a version 2.2? Let's look at that next. Okay, so now I want to look at what happens when the project, the original project, releases another new release, and I need to bring those releases to my customized version and to my client as well. Now, just for curiosity's sake, anyone who wants to see the aliases that I have configured in Git, including this nice log alias that I created, this is it right there to make that nice fancy graph. So you can pause here and check out the aliases if you want to. Otherwise, let's move on. So what have we got right now? What I did while I paused the recording was I made a few new commits on master that represents updates to the original, the source robot app. What I did was a new version 2.2 came out of robot app, and a bug fix release 2.2.1 also came out. Now those are changes on master. So I've updated master to the latest release of robot app. How do I spread those to my branches? Pretty straightforward. So one of the customizations, we've checked out master. So let's refresh and look at master. If you recall, master has the description, it has the R2D2, and version 2.2 introduced the amazing feature of a horizontal rule above the copyright line. That's our pretend new feature. There's also a new comment added here that represents a bug fix to the source code of robot app. So that's the 2.2.1 release added this pretend bug fix in here. And we have a horizontal rule added for version 2.2. Ooh, fancy. Now I want this new version of robot app to be brought to my clients. Right now I just have client A in there. What do I do? Well, Starting in master, I make sure I have the new release in master that I want, and I'm just going to again rebase my other branches off of that. So I check out core customized, and I'm going to rebase core customized onto master. Now the branch that you mentioned in the rebase command is the branch you are rebasing onto, and the branch you currently have checked out is the branch that's getting rebased. Great, so now core customized has the awesome horizontal rule feature. Again, we're in our core customized version. It has just my initial. It does not have the summary sentence here. We've got R2D2, but it's now got the awesome 2.2 feature of the horizontal rule. And you can see in the config, we have 2.2.1 is the version that's in core customized. And again, super easy. I check out the client, and I'm going to rebase that onto core customized. So let's just check out what it looks like. Remember, my client had Optimus Prime, but it does not have the fancy horizontal rule in there. So I'm going to rebase again. But this time, I'm rebasing onto core customized. Bam. So my client now has the awesome horizontal rule feature on this client's version of robot app. Now, suppose I had yet another client who wanted robot app. I would again make another branch off of core customized, and I would call it branch client B, client C, whatever, however naming convention you want. You don't have to follow my names. But the general idea is that I have master, and then I have core customized comes off of master, and then I have multiple client-specific branches coming off of core customized. So now my client has 2.2.1, which is great. And yet all of my internal customizations to robot app still exist in core customized, and all of the client-specific customizations still exist in each client-specific branch. So each time I bring master up to the latest release of the vanilla robot app, I then rebase core customized on top of it, and then I rebase each client onto core customized. And everything stays as a nice linear graph. As you can see, my graph is linear. Everything is just following on each other. Master has all of its commits. Core customized still comes directly off the latest master commit, and the client branch comes directly off the latest commit of the core customized branch. And it keeps my history graph nice and linear. Everything's very clean. And this is the way that I can continue to have a divergent version of robot app or OpenCart or WordPress, whatever it is. I can have my own customized version of that piece of software, and then from my internal version of that software, I can then further customize for each individual client, and I can keep all of these in sync. Git keeps track of all of this for me. I push it up to GitHub or something similar, and make sure that all of these changes get shared with any other developers who have checked out this repo. I hope that was somewhat helpful. This is one strategy that uses rebasing. Another option would be to be merging the changes into the other branches, or cherry picking the specific commits that you then want to put into your further branches. I'm not going to go into that because this is the one that I would use, because usually it's just me or one or two developers working on a project, and I find rebasing is quite nice. That's it. If you like this video, let me know. Follow me on Twitter at SyntaxSeed. My name is Sherry Wheeler. Thanks for watching.